Let's go to the other matchup, the Orioles and the Royals. The Orioles finished the season with 91-71 record, 44-37 at home, 47-34 on the road. 47-44 against teams over 500. A second half record of 33-33. It's not good.
No.
They were looking like they were the runaway favorites to win the World Series early in the year. We thought Gunnar Henderson was going to be the no-brainer MVP, and then things just fell apart in the second half. They were lucky they had such a good first half.
I mean, they're still a young team.
They are, absolutely. And that's one of the things that is we want to say, oh, they're a young team, they'll be back. But what if they're not?
That's true.
Right?
Because I was literally going to say they could be back.
Well, so right. So 2 years ago, the Mariners made, and I know I always go back to the Mariners, but this is the thing, is that 2 years ago, the Mariners made the playoffs in 2022, broke the drought, everything, da-da-da. They shocked the Blue Jays and then went and got swept in a very competitive series against the Astros. And it was like, oh, well, we'll be back next year. We'll get them next year. It's been 2 years. They've missed the playoffs both years. So, because this is the thing about the AL East, is it is wildly competitive. First, you got the Yankees who won the division this year. Got the Rays who took a step back this year. You can't expect that to happen again next year. Everybody underperformed this year. And they loaded up at the trade deadline. They got a bunch of young guys who could come in and be studs next year. The Blue Jays, speaking of underperforming, holy moly.
Yeah.
They're probably, you would expect them to be much more competitive next year. So, I don't know. I don't know that it's necessarily a lock. If the Orioles played the way they did in the second half, I don't think it's necessarily a lock for them to get back to the playoffs next year.
At one point, the Yankees were the fourth place team in the AL East. I mean, let's not act like that was not a situation at one point during the season. So,
right.
Again, that adds to this is a competitive division that could go any way, shape, or form throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think at the beginning of the year, a lot of people had 3 or 4 teams coming out of, right? Probably 3 teams coming out of the division. Yeah, because that's the most you can have is 3. Because that's what the Central has. So I think a lot of people were choosing, like I said, Yankees, Orioles, and probably the Rays, or Blue Jays, or your third team to come out of that division.
Right.
And it just didn't work out for them that way. So I don't think it's a lock necessarily for them to get back next year. But this year they were 4-2 against the Royals. Second half, again, not great, but they still hit well. They still hit the ball really well. They had 246 team batting average, an OPS of 731. That's good. 111 WRC plus. They walk a pretty good amount, 9.1%. They also strike out a pretty good amount, 23.1%. Not going to steal. They didn't steal a whole lot of bases the second half, which shocked me. With 35 bags was all. But this is the real bugaboo, was the pitching. 4.30 ERA, 1.30 WHIP, 1.18 home runs per 9, 3.03 walks per 9 innings. A lot of teams in the playoffs are down below 3. So
and they're above it. Just a little.
And they're above it. 15 saves, 6 blown saves. Like, they're still good late, but they did end up DFAing Craig Kimbrell, which I think is going to help that situation a lot. So
I won't speak my thoughts on the man with the chicken stance.
We talked about him a lot last week. So but yeah, the Orioles are an interesting team because you see what their ceiling is, but now at this point we've seen their floor, which is not great.
You're right.
They could be a lot better coming into the playoffs.
I will
However,
say,
in the last, go ahead.
I was going to say, before we move on to the next team, I will say I'm very happy for that fan base that they're getting this team. Because the loyal fans that have been there through the really bad years, and there were a lot of bad years, or have deserved a team like this to show up for them.
They have, and I think that's why a lot of people have been pulling for the Orioles. Right? The fan base has gone through so much, and now you've got a new owner who wants to spend money and win, and you've got your young guys who are coming up who are so good, so good, right?
It's almost like
So
the Pirates should take a lesson from this.
you would think, right? Sell the team. That'd be a way to go. All right, let's move on to the Royals. The Royals finished the year 86 and 76, 45 and 36 on the road. 45 and 36 at home, 41 and 40 on the road. So that's a little concerning. 45 and 54 against teams over 500. Don't like that for the Royals. 34 and 31 second half record. They did a lot of their heavy lifting in the first half, like for some reason a lot of these playoff teams.
A lot of teams
right?
have, yeah.
Yeah. So, but they finished the season 4 and 6 in their last 10, and they're 2 and 4 against Baltimore on the year. So this is the thing. This is kind of the problem that I think that the Royals have is they hit the ball really well in the first half, and that was some carryover from last year. I feel like because that was one of the things in their second half last year. It was like, man, this is one of the best offensive teams in baseball. Carried over, had a really strong first half, and then fell off. WRC plus, like we said, of 95, that is below league average. They weren't walking a whole lot, 7.1%. They weren't striking out a lot though, 20.4%. So I wonder, and team OPS of 707 is not bad. I wonder if some of this is just bad luck. They talk about like luck factor in baseball, right? That you hit the ball square and it's right at somebody.
It's very real. It is very real.
So I wonder if that's part of it, but I don't know. But a big thing in the postseason is your pitching. Your pitching is what carries you, and that's what's done really well for them. The second half, 3.69 team ERA, 1.20 whip, 0.88 home runs per 9, 8.61 strikeouts per 9, 2.78 walks per 9, and 17 saves with 11 blown saves. Here's an interesting one, Jason. This is a habit. That's a habit. Interesting one for you, Jason. Is a 234 batting average against. So their pitchers allowed a 234 batting average. That's not bad.
No.
So if they can,
not at all.
if they can get that offense to be average in the postseason, they could be okay. They could make some noise,
especially against their first round opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Against the Orioles, it could go well for them. I don't know. I think we got some good matchups here in the American League. I'm really excited for them. I like the way that things are stacking up.